Welcome back to the show. It is one of our home team episodes. Today, it is MDV, Matt DellaValle, as well as Dennis Marshall. Now, if you've noticed, if you're watching this on camera, MDV is showing off his biceps, and we are here to talk briefly about the sugar diet and the fact that MDV claims to be a big time believer, and yet he's been on the sugar diet for 2 days. And
one day.
And so I'm like, bro, how's the sugar diet going for you? He's like, dude, I'm a big believer. I'm like, I'm recording. I just hit record. I didn't even there was no preemptive, nothing. Bro, how can you be so convinced over something in a day? Good morning. Let's get the show on the road.
Good morning. Let's go. I'm fired up. If I'm going off of anecdotal evidence exclusively, I felt fucking incredible yesterday doing the sugar diet, dude. I swear to God. Dude, I swear my energy levels throughout the day were insanely good.
And no shit, it's because you're eating honey. Okay, talk to us.
I'll talk to you. So I felt great all day. So let me just back up for a second. There's this shit going around on the internet that Mark Bell is talking about. Mark Bell is always out there talking some shit. And he's talking right now about the sugar diet. And then Josh Trainer Gold on Instagram is also big into the sugar diet right now. And listen, some of this for me is like tongue in cheek because I think it's fucking crazy. It's like another thing that's going to catch on for a little bit and then it's going to go away. It's classic. It's like the grapefruit diet, the steak diet, the paleo, whatever.
The blank diet.
Yeah, the blank diet. It's the blank diet. And it was only a matter of time before sugar came all the way back around to be like the primary thing. But in terms of what these guys are talking about, they're talking about a short-term type of, and I've only really listened to like 7 minutes of them talking about this, so I know nothing about it. But it's a short-term diet that replaces intermittent fasting in a way that helps you lose weight quickly. That's at least, look at this guy over here. He's fucking diced up. So essentially what you do is you eat nothing but fruit or fruit juice or honey or maple syrup. And they even like throw in some like sugar candy and stuff like that and like cane sugar. That's all you eat during the day. You're eating that during the day. And then at night you have a lean protein plus fruit plus vegetables. And there's some other like more kind of details about what you have at night. Yeah, this is essentially what sugar fasting is.
So on the screen, just for people who aren't watching this, it says sugar fasting is fruit, frozen fruit and canned fruit is cheaper, easier to deal with. Plus the HFCS is yummy and perfect for this diet. Fruit juice,
high fructose corn syrup, bro.
Oh. I'm sorry, I'm just reading it off the screen. High fructose corn syrup, table sugar, soda, Gatorade type of stuff, honey, maple syrup, and candy. Zero fat.
So you're not getting a lot of fat and not a lot of protein during the day. And then at night, you have a solid portion of protein. I think around like 80 grams of protein, they said, is like the minimum that they'd want you to have or something like that. I don't know. Again, I did zero research. All I did yesterday was eat a ton of fruit during the day. I felt fucking incredible. I felt like
how much honey did you wait? What did you
outrageously good?
What did you hold up before we started recording? What was that? Like a bag of honey?
This is just a packet of honey, dude. This is just I'm in. I'm a believer. I'm in the sugar diet zeitgeist right now.
Mark this date. This is it's May 20th. I think this gets released next week. And by next week, we should ask you, hey, are you still a believer in the sugar diet? We'll see.
Well, I've been, like I said a couple of weeks ago, dude, or on the show, I've been experimenting with some stuff with my nutrition, a way more intuitive way of eating, trying to figure out like what makes me feel the best. After talking with Gabe, I like with the quality versus quantity discussion, I've already been doing some quantity restrictions in terms of like trying to stop my eating at a certain time at night, or maybe like having some intermittent fasting involved. So this seems like a really interesting thing to try. It came along at the right time for me to try. And I like it, dude. I like eating fruit. I like eating lean protein at night. I felt really good throughout the day. I really did. In all seriousness, I had coffee, water, honey, fruit, and maple syrup for the day. And then at night, I had about a pound of lean ground beef, plus fruit, plus some sourdough bread. I felt incredible. I slept amazing. My energy levels throughout the day were super, super high. I felt like lean. I felt ready to do work. Like my body didn't feel inflamed. I woke up today, even though I have a head cold still from a couple of days ago, I woke up just feeling like really good and full of like life and energy, man. Like I'm going to try it for a few more days and if it keeps going, see how overall it feels. But
what do you think, Dennis? What's your take? What's your hot take?
I have a lot of thoughts on this. I mean, just to address specifically MDV, like, do you normally consume a relatively low carbohydrate diet, like throughout the day for the most part?
I eat fruit. So the main elements of my diet are usually protein, some sort of like ground beef, like chicken or eggs or something like that. That's usually the base of my diet. And then around that, I'm putting fruit, I'm putting leafy greens, I'm putting sometimes some vegetables, some nuts and seeds, but very rarely those things are rare and rare. Sourdough bread is sometimes involved, but like mostly the base of my diet for a long time was heavy protein, protein. I you know what the interesting thing was, Dan? I couldn't remember a time that I didn't eat protein during a day, except for this last time I did this 36-hour fast. I did a 36-hour fast, and that was the longest I've gone without food. But besides that, I've probably slammed protein into my system more than any other macronutrient for sure. And it's always been like the primary thing that I'm going after. So this was a cool way to just kind of flip the script a little bit and see like, okay, I'm going to delay. I'm still going to have protein here at night, but let me just see what it feels like to just eat mostly fruit through the day. Yeah. And honestly, dude, like my digestion felt fine. There was like nothing really going on in my belly. Like I felt good. I really am going to give it a few more days of. No,
give it give it at least a week before we record again, because I really want to get feedback. I would say that one thing that you brought up,
45 days.
Yeah. Next challenge.
So by the way, what's been working really well for me is the 50 grams of protein early in the morning has worked really well for me, because traditionally, and I think this is a good kind of like nuanced approach, is that everybody comes to a diet or nutrition planning with a background, right? And typically for me, I wouldn't eat anything until around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm talking, I've done that for years, many, many years. And having protein in the morning has been good because it's allowed me, now that my training style has shifted as I've gotten older, to not just make like these immediate irrational decisions midday, right? I've been more thoughtful because I'm not as hungry. So that's been, what are you doing, MDV? Are you taking a picture?
Yeah, I'm going to post about the sugar diet, dude.
Oh my gosh. Influencer MDV.
Dude, come on. Stop giving me a hard time about this stuff, man. Trying to promote the podcast.
Let's go, baby. Hey, speaking of which, if you're out there and you're listening to the show, make sure to tell 3 friends about it. But one big thing that's really helped me is stopping eating earlier. That's out of all things, like out of anything. If I eat late, and this makes me sound so old, dude, but if I eat late, I remember when I was younger, my dad would always say like, oh, like I can't eat late, and I would always like kind of make fun of him because it was like, 8 o'clock at night or whatever. And now that I'm older, I go to bed at 9:15, I wake up at 5, and if I eat any later than like 7:30, 8, dude, I don't sleep well. I feel like shit.
Yep, same with me.
Dude, I was just texting Dennis about this the other day. Mm-hmm. Literally, we were just having this conversation over text the other day about pushing eating further into the evening, and not necessarily because like I don't love eating a ton during the day, and I understand Gabe's position on this most likely would be eat more during the day, eat less at night. I get it. But I don't love eating a lot of food during the day because I feel so sluggish.
Yep.
But it does end up like if the eating window doesn't close at a certain time around like 8, 7:30 for me, I notice that if I do slam in particular, if I do eat a lot of fat and protein at night, I have a really hard time sleeping. I wake up feeling like almost hungover now.
Yep. Go ahead, Dennis. Yeah.
To talk about, again, about kind of the sugar diet, it reminds me a little bit of, you guys might know Julian Pinot from Strong Fit.
Yeah.
So he had this nutrition protocol that he was promoting for a while, and I practiced it for several months, well, on and off for several months. And what he was in tune with was the signal that different macronutrients would send to the nervous system in terms of like how your body is responding, not just to the overall caloric intake or the overall macronutrients, but like literally when you consume protein, like what signal is that sending to your body? And so what he would recommend would be fat throughout the day, just to provide like just steady, even keeled energy so you could think, so you could work, you could be creative, you wouldn't crash, but you never had any real big highs or lows. Then prior to your workout, you would consume pretty much all of your carbohydrates for the day in the form of like simple sugar, honey, maybe a little bit of fruit, whatever it was. And that signals to the nervous system that like it should be excited and ready for like some sort of activity. And so you would respond to that really favorably and feel great and have super high energy, because up to that point, you weren't sending that signal at all, really. And then you send that signal and you take advantage of it. You work out, you train hard. Then you would reserve all your protein for evening, because what protein will signal is for the body to go into like restoration recovery mode. And so it would basically signal you to like stop doing anything, recover, and just go to sleep. And that works like magic. And the sugar diet concept kind of reminds me of that.
Pretty similar.
Especially if you're an active person. Then it's, I think, gonna like Mark Bell, for example. I mean, I don't know the guy's exact training schedule, but it seems to be like super high training volume. He's also probably on performance enhancing drugs. I think he's openly admitted that.
Vocal about
that's
that,
obviously going to influence how he responds and how his body composition responds to that. But it kind of reminds me of that. Like you're providing your body with just straight up energy all day long, so you're probably going to feel great. Especially if you're a relatively active person and you're engaging in a lot of activity, a lot of exercise, you're going to be fueled really well for that. And the protein, you're never going to really send the signal to your body throughout the day to go into like recovery or restoration mode. So you're never going to get that like that feeling of just like I need to like chill out and slow down, and your brain activity starts to wind down from that. Until the evening when it's appropriate for you to actually rest and go to sleep. So, I'd be interested to see like people that follow this diet, what their total caloric intake looks like, what the breakdown is as far as like carbs to fat to protein, how long they can sustain this, especially if you're looking to sustain muscle mass or even increase muscle mass. I'd be hard pressed to think that you can follow this for that long at that low of a protein intake and still.
They were saying, so I did not a lot of research on this, but one of the clips that I did see was that the amount of protein that you actually need for maintenance is lower than what actually a lot of the quoted protein numbers out there are, right? Like the quoted protein number is usually 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. Sometimes you see 0.75. Sometimes you see 1. What the individual was saying that was talking through this diet was that like that's more than you would need to maintain muscle mass, and you're not going to lose muscle overnight.
Sure.
Like if you don't eat protein for 1 day, do you lose any muscle? And I kind of like, it was a head scratcher for me, because for so many years, like I've been saying, I've been slamming animal protein into my body for so many years. And I had never taken my foot off the gas from that. And I actually didn't have animal protein. There was a couple of days last week I didn't eat animal protein at all. And I was just tried to see like what would happen. I felt no different. Like, it was no difference. So I'm going to try this for at least a week. I'm going to see how it goes. It fit my lifestyle really well, because I don't like eating super heavy and big meals during the day. And I love fruit. So I'm going to try to see what it feels like. And then at night, I'm going to eat lean protein, which is what I would normally eat anyway, and probably pair it with like romaine lettuce or extra virgin olive oil or whatever, and just see how I feel. And I'm in a place in my life right now where I can do this and it doesn't impact like a lot of people around me. So I can experiment pretty wildly on stuff like this.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder like the people that get results from this in terms of weight loss. I mean, to me, it just sounds like it's a function of you're just consuming less food. Overall throughout the day.
What they said was that in comparison to normal intermittent fasting, Mark Bell quoted that you will lose more weight eating this way on the sugar diet if you're consuming up to like even 2,000 calories worth of
Sugar.
fruit, fructose, and that kind of stuff, than if you just intermittent fast where you didn't have those calories, which was interesting.
Yeah, because your body's gonna, take that sugar and utilize it as fuel. Is basically, I imagine, the argument, right?
I would imagine you're putting like high test fuel into your system, and your body is like using it right away to do whatever metabolic and physical functions you're asking.
There's so many nuances and caveats to this, right? Because the guys that are also talking about it, including yourself, dude, you're a well-oiled machine, right? Your body is probably at, you're probably at, less than 10% body fat.
Right around probably 10% body fat right now.
And
probably.
So there's so many nuances here. I mean, I think for me, and I'd say for most guys, most of the time, I do think what we're putting out with the TH45 is a great place to go. And the reason why,
100%.
if nothing else, is that it allows you not to just eat whatever you find in the middle of the day. I think that because, like, for example, I just shut down a bunch of protein this morning, which is all new for me. Like, I don't normally do this, but I still feel good. But I know that I feel like, and Dennis, you were mentioning this, and I think MDV too, is that normally what I would do is I wouldn't eat. And then at night, I would just like eat so much. The problem is there was a fine line between eating enough for like performance and eating too much to impact my sleep. And, full disclosure, like on holidays and stuff, dude, I've gotten sick more times than I'd like to admit in the middle of the night, waking up and having to go throw up because my body cannot digest the meat. And that's embarrassing, right? And I've had the last time it happened, I woke up.
Oh, this has happened
more times than it should.
Most times than it should. Every time Jason goes to Mexico, he gets sick from eating cheese.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
But like, no, I'm talking like, okay, it wasn't even that long ago. When we were like going out, and I wouldn't like have a bunch of drinks or anything. I would just eat too much like heavy, rich food. And it'll happen to me. I'll wake up around 1 a.m. and I'll start feeling like I'm sweating. And then, dude, I'll get sick. And the next morning I'll tell Ash, and she just looks at me in a way like, really? And I feel like it's embarrassing, dude. Like, I'm a grown ass man eating too much meat and then throwing up in the middle of the night. Like, and so after that, I was like, I'm done.
You might want to get that checked out.
It's a me problem,
dude,
right?
It's hard though, dude. I'm in the same boat. I mean, I don't wake up and throw up, but I've been to the place. I've been to the dark place of too much protein and too much rich food many times.
Yeah, we all have.
Many times, dude. And that's one of the things that I think, like, in terms of the more like paleo prescription or the keto prescriptions or the high fat, high protein prescriptions that are out there, you can get into this mode where you're like, yeah, fuck it. I'll have 50 ounces of steak. We'll see what happens. Like, what do you think is going to happen if you put 50 ounces of steak into your system? You're going to be sweating your ass off all night. You're probably going to feel like shit at some point. But like, there's this perception that that's fine. This kind of diet for me, like this, like looking at it, I originally would not have even paid attention to this. But there was something very different than how I normally looked at nutrition that I wanted to just try. Because like I said, I've been trying things for a long time in the space. And this sounded interesting to me in terms of like, let me see what it's all about. Because on the surface, it's like, oh, you're going to eat candy and lose weight. That's not really what they're advocating with this. And they're not advocating this as a long-term solution. It's more so as a replacement or an other option for an intermittent fasting type of setup where you do want to lose body fat, where that is part of the goal, where you're not necessarily interested in weighing and measuring and going with a traditional balanced macronutrient approach. It's just a different alternative to it.
I wonder how people would feel that do it that aren't very active throughout the day. Like you're just sitting around at a desk for 8 hours. Like,
I felt like I had unlimited energy yesterday.
What's that?
I felt like I had like unlimited energy yesterday.
And you were probably able to like get rid of it. You could get up and move around and work out and go for a walk but people that are sitting at a desk for 8 hours, like, I wonder how they would respond to it. They might make them like nuts.
Yeah.
And if you're not able to exert the energy, then the intake is not matching the exertion. Like, you just run into the same problem you would with any other dietary strategy that doesn't allow you to expend enough energy relative to what you're consuming. I think at the end of the day, it's like, maybe it makes it more sustainable because of how good you feel from consuming simple sugars and the response you get from that, like the dopamine hit you get every time you consume it. So it's sustainable in that sense because you feel really good. But I think I mean, again, like I'm not an expert on human metabolism, but like I think ultimately people lose weight on it because they're just consuming less food throughout the day.
I wanted to bring up the men's club road show, but on the note for the sugar diet, I think one of the benefits of this show, right? We've had a lot of guests on the show, and the future, we'll have specific guests on the show, but it's not going to be as much of a main focus for us.
Hopefully we can get Mark on the home team.
Oh yeah, of course we can get
Mark. That would be great, dude.
Yeah, I mean, what we're going to do is we're going to start getting more and more friends of the show. Like, I mean, I've obviously, look at this guy. So right now, MDV is getting his sugar fix by, like, what is that, dude? It's like a bladder bag of honey.
This is just like baby food, but it's honey. It's just pure honey.
Dude,
I'm going out of my mind here.
No, what? I actually really like that because before jujitsu, I would typically, have something like that. But it was weird coming out of like a honey thing. That's actually really user friendly.
Yeah, this is cool. It's from the Honeybee family in San Diego, California. Shout out Honeybee family.
Oh, Honeybee family. I actually ordered in Nick Bear's. He has what's his like his Gatorade, similar thing to Gatorade. Do you guys know what that is?
No, he's got a sports drink like a Gatorade.
Yeah, and so it's a powder, and it basically it has like a Anyways, I ordered some of that in to try before jiu-jitsu to see if it'll help with some of my cramping in my legs. So I will report back. I haven't used it too many times, and then I also it's something that we're having Caden use for all of his games instead of Gatorade, just trying something different. But before we talk about baseball, I did have something to bring up there. I want to talk about the Train Hard Men's Club tour. Okay. So this podcast is going to come out in like a week and June 9th. I'm going to put all this out on my Instagram so you can check out at Jason Khalipa. We'll probably have it other places too. We'll probably also have it in a newsletter, but I'm just putting out 6 locations to start, and then we're going to go from there. It'll be Richmond, Virginia, June 9th, Park City, Utah, June 13th, Las Vegas, Nevada, June 19th, Winona, Minnesota, July 3rd, and then Cabo and Maui. I'm doing events out there. Will also be in like later in the summer. So I wanted to put that out. If you guys have been watching what we're doing here in the Bay Area for the men's club, and you want to be a part of that, make the drive. Come see me. Virginia, Utah, Vegas, Winona, Minnesota. Those are the first 4 that are happening in the month of June and early July. So.
Well, Dennis and I will be there for Vegas, Cabo, and Maui. I don't know about Winona, Minnesota, bro. I didn't get to Winona, Minnesota. Where is that?
Yeah, so it's
why are you going to Winona, Minnesota?
So it's funny, like okay, so you bring up the question, or you didn't ask about this one, but Richmond, Virginia, we're doing an event. I'm doing an event with Customs and Border Protection, and I'm flying from the Two Brain Summit in Chicago.
Gotcha.
Directly to Virginia, and then I'm doing an activation with them. Well, my activation doesn't happen till like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so I'm gonna do it at 6 a.m. and we'll see who shows up. And the mentality, by the way, we get a lot of questions about the men's club. The mentality has to be that I'm gonna be out there in a parking lot working out, whether I'm with other people or not. I hope other people show up, but I have to have the mindset that like I'm gonna be doing this anyways, and I'm inviting other people to join me. Obviously, it's always free. Who knows how many people are going to show up? So that's what I'm doing there. Park City and Vegas. My family and I are doing a quick road trip, and we're going to be driving because
cool.
Ava goes into high school soon, and we wanted to get in. We wanted to like see that part of the country a little bit better. And then Winona, Minnesota. We have family in Winona, where it's an hour outside of Rochester. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours outside of like Minneapolis. Great place.
Minnesota's swampy in the summer, bro.
Oh, it's going to be hella swampy, bro.
Swampy.
I mean, we're going to be out. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put out on social media, people could just put up their information, like a Google sheet or whatever. And then I'll create like a WhatsApp or an email or something and be like, hey guys, we're going to be at this location at this time. And the goal is to do a 45-minute workout outdoors and then grab coffee.
I love it.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, dude. That's how the fucking Los Gatos men's club kind of started. Just like showed up and did a workout and got coffee afterwards. Man,
I'm telling you, the Los Gatos Men's Club has been so impactful on so many people. And at this point, we get about 50 guys every weekend. We have like maybe 250 guys on our email list that are like in rotation. and it's starting to get deeper than just the workout, right? It's the exact vision, guys having real conversations about real stuff. It's been awesome. So come see me at one of the tour sites.
That's awesome, dude. Congratulations. It's gonna be cool.
Philly, where you guys run up the stairs like Rocky.
Ooh, that'd be a good one.
And Rocky's running the streets and all the kids are running after him.
That'd be fun.
Like that.
Yeah, right now, the way I'm starting these off is like I'm thinking about places where I'm already traveling to for work or for whatever, and then trying to just like put the word out. But I do think as these things start to grow and we build more of a groundswell, we could actually do like legitimately like, I mean, what I really want to do is like rent one of those big ass tour buses and go across the country. I think that'd be so cool.
You're gonna get a wrapped tour bus? A train hard wrapped tour bus?
I mean, I don't know about a wrapped tour bus, but a tour bus, like rent a tour bus, and be like, all right, we're going to be in these cities and just like show them, just connect like-minded guys, right? And then go grab coffee and you never know what'll happen. So
that's cool.
Yeah, stay tuned for that, everybody. Those are the locations. If you make the drive, we'd love to see you guys. Just
to speak to that, it is, as an adult man, it is so hard to make friends. Like if you have not stayed connected with your friends from high school, from college, from sports, whatever, like to make new friends as an adult is so challenging. And I'm sure it's not unique to me. I find it extremely difficult just because I'm socially awkward and a curmudgeon and not the most friendly person, probably, at least in terms of appearances. But it's like I kind of like, I'll use the word yearn to make new friends. And I find it incredibly difficult to do so as an adult. I'm sure other adults feel the same way. I've heard many people say this before, but it's a great, great outlet for that, to find common ground with people, to find people that are like-minded. It's so difficult to do nowadays. So if anything, I mean, you mentioned it, like beyond the workout itself, the benefits of that extend way beyond the physical.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, so MDV's been to a couple. I will give you like a real life example of, I think that men in particular have a very difficult time making new friends, especially if they don't have children or if their children are young. It's very hard. And young meaning like they're not playing sports. Like my kids are, I'm making all of our friends through the kids' school, through sports, and now through obviously jiu-jitsu, CrossFit, whatever. But if you don't have those outlets, it's very, very difficult. And, I told you guys this the other day, one of the guys walked up to me last week. He's like, I've made more friends the last 8 months being here than I did in the last 18 years. And that was really impactful. And I think that, this is a rallying cry to any guy out there. I get messages every single day. I want to do a men's club. Dude, stop talking about it and just do it. Go text some friends, go start an email chain and just do it. And it will grow. Have a positive mindset. But I'm telling you, this last week was probably like a little bit of a breakthrough for me because it took about 2 years to get here. But I watched a group of 6 guys talk at coffee about like some real deep shit. Like stuff that, I mean, you would never have a conversation with somebody about because they've developed a rapport. And most guys are struggling with a variety of the same problems, right? What is it? It's alcohol. A lot of people have problems with that. It's porn addiction. That's a huge problem. It's, not showing up or cheating on their wives, whatever it is. And I think what's really special about getting the guys together, especially these guys, is they are self-selecting for guys that are trying to do something to improve themselves. And the overall ethos is that they're wrong and they need to take ownership for it. Like nobody so for example, if someone comes in and says, hey, my wife, I'm having this problem. No one's like, oh, your wife is this. Instead, it's like, well, what are you doing that's causing this problem? You know what I mean? That's the culture.
What's in your control, dude? What's in your control?
Yeah.
For sure. There's a choice. Like one of the things, Jay, that I love that you mentioned here is that there's a choice to like do these things or to not do these things every day that you have. And it can feel sometimes like you don't have a choice. Like you can feel compelled to do some of these things. You can feel compelled to drink. You can feel compelled to watch porn. You can feel compelled to gamble. You can feel compelled to be angry. But you always have a choice to not do that, right? And understanding that you have this ability to go this direction or this direction. And sometimes you have to, it takes it takes time and exertion of that energy elsewhere, and maybe some perspective and talking to people and working through and learning from mistakes. But a lot of this stuff, like even the stuff that I do for my own peace of mind, like my journaling or my daily push-ups or the 45 burpees, great example. Great examples of 45 burpees through this 45-day challenge. I do not want to do them almost every day. But I like think about doing them, I'm like, oh man, I got to do these burpees. But then it's like, no, I get to do these burpees. And then as I'm like 15, 17 reps in, I'm always thankful that I started doing them, and I always come out of it with a better perspective. And I think you're introducing these guys to a few very valuable things. Number one, you're introducing them to the power of fitness, which is hugely important. And then they're able to connect to each other through suffering through these workouts together. And it breaks down that initial barrier that like now we're shoulder to shoulder and we can have discussions about things that, you know, we've kind of been through some stuff together, so we can talk about some tough stuff over here. That's really, really cool.
Yeah. I mean, Dennis, like to your point though, like it is hard. You know, like, and I'm blessed to have the network that we have. You know, this last weekend, I'll just use an example. I spent 10 hours on the baseball field, 10 hours on Saturday with 4 dads. So of course you had a chance to connect and talk and whatever. And luckily, you know, there's kind of like, we have something in common, right? And then on Sunday, same thing, right? There was a baseball tournament and then playoffs for Little League. And I'm very grateful there, but not a lot of guys have that same opportunity. And so I would strongly encourage you. It does take effort. It takes time. Like a new neighbor just moved in, and he happens to be a new neighbor came in, and I've asked him now 5 times to work out, and I'm probably almost done asking, right? But I'm getting closer. And eventually, you know, if he wants to do it, I want to be a beacon. Like, I guess the point I'm trying to make for everybody listening is like, dude, if you're a guy out there and you see a neighbor who looks similar age, similar interest, dude, I know it's kind of weird, but like, it's like, hey, bro, I train regularly. Like, you want to go train? And it's awkward at first, but then it's like, then you also have somebody to hold you accountable, you know? So it's nice.
Dude, it's one of the easiest ways to hang out with somebody and not have it be awkward. Like, I'm almost convinced that working out and being in shape is one of the easiest ways to form male relationships. Like, just think about walking, dude. I'm pretty lucky. I've been able to walk into every CrossFit gym ever that I've ever been into, nearly every jiu-jitsu gym that I've ever been into as well, and make friends right away. Right, pretty much right away. Because I'm confident in those environments. I have fun doing those things. I'm going to be there pretty regularly. I'm going to show up. I'm going to keep showing up. And you have this ability when you have that confidence, or when you like have done these things over and over again, to like walk in and give somebody a fist bump. Like, dude, at LA Fitness the other day, like I was doing this nonsense stuff, walking around with the 70-pound dumbbells over my head and stuff like that. And like having such a good time, and people asking questions and fist bumping people. And it's just like, there's a way to meet people through fitness that like, if you practice these things and you go regularly, you can like give somebody the head nod or say like, hey, what's up? I've seen you around. Like, what are you training for? Like, are you training for anything specific? And the conversation just starts very organically that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I've found it to be, but yeah, Dennis, like the men's club has been really profound, and I'm hoping that with this tour, it's the groundswell of something really special. Like, I have a vision to impact tens of hundreds of thousands of men, and on a really deep level. Like that's my goal. Like, and using fitness as like this catalyst to do all these other things. And I'm starting to really see that firsthand in the men's club, which gives me a ton of inspiration, because I'm watching guys who are using fitness as a tool to like literally break through life-changing stuff in their relationships. And like, I just think that's awesome, man. So yeah.
I have a question here for the professor. This was on my mind a little bit.
Dude, Dennis, the professor Marshall?
Dennis, the professor. Fuck, why can't we say professor today?
Professor.
Dennis, the professor Marshall. Dennis, have we been picking things up off the ground wrong with a arched / flat back forever? Like, and I was thinking about this the other day. If you think about how humans probably picked up things from the ground, like stones, objects, did they nobody back then was setting their back and arching their back, like especially not arching their back, which we know is not what you want to do. More often than not, they probably had a rounded spine that was not a dynamic rounded spine. It was a solid rounded spine and picking things up, kind of like how strongman pick things up. If you ever watch strongman competitions, when they're picking up these fucking heavy tons of objects, these guys are doing so with a rounded back. Always. Not a dynamic back, not like a back that starts flat and then changes suddenly to rounded, but it's set in a rounded position and then they stand up with the object.
Yeah.
It kind of just, I've thought about these kinds of things before, but I was thinking about like picking up a heavy stone. I was like, you'd fuck yourself up trying to pick it up with like a flat or arched back for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's unnatural to pick with a neutral spine, like with a neutral position. Like if you look at it from just purely an evolutionary perspective, everything that we picked up was within the confines of our body. But like,
there were no barbells. Like you weren't picking up something that was shaped like a barbell ever, where you were able to get into that position. No,
right. So everything, and it was low to the ground most likely. So you had to naturally round the back just to be able to get your arms around it. And so I don't know where the neutral spine thing ever even came from. I mean, it's obviously been around for a long time, but the position of the spine, especially when you pick something up that you can hug, like, and you can create that, you can brace against the object, that's really going to be the strongest and probably safest position for the spine. But ultimately, like, we adapt to whatever we expose ourselves to. So you can certainly get strong in every position possible that the spine can get into, as long as you expose it to that and train that way. So I think a lot of the problem is that people are taught to lift with a flat back at a early age in terms of their lifting career. They only expose themselves to that position. And then when they find themselves having to pick something up with a rounded back, they expose themselves to potential injury. But it's not because their back was rounded.
For sure.
They just haven't been developing strength in that position.
For sure. I was thinking, like, even if you drop something on the ground that was like a lighter object, let's say something's dropped that you're carrying something that's like 10 or 20 pounds, nothing super heavy. If you went to pick that up off of the ground, you're not bending down.
No.
With a neutral spine to pick that thing up.
No. Yeah, I think it's a fine line, right? Like this morning, I was doing sets of 12 at 250, right? And I have to really pay attention.
Did you wear a belt?
Not for that.
Not for that.
I did wear a belt though. I was doing push press, which is coming up at TH Daily. I was doing push press at 205 with tempo. And I did wear a belt for that. And the reason why is just to remind myself to stay engaged and not overarch the top. That's kind of like the reason why I was wearing it. But anyways, it's an interesting subject, MDV. I think that the youth, like, let's talk about the youth for a second. I'm particularly interested in, we talked a little bit about the Gilroy wrestling crew, but
sure.
I was talking to a bunch of dads and we were talking about getting them training with me. And what's really interesting is that these young boys do not know how to get into a neutral spine position. They cannot physically understand how to get there, but they can still pick stuff up from the ground. So is that a weakness in itself, that they don't know how to create a flex neutral spine position? And if so, as we load these movements up, so I think if you're at lighter loads or if you're rounding around an object, that's a skill that you should learn how to have. You should be able to have a flex spine and still be able to lift. But if you're going to go for maximal loading, right, peak tension, the hamstring, really trying to strengthen your erectors, is it better to teach them? Like, so are you alluding to maybe we shouldn't ever teach to have a neutral spine? You know what I'm saying?
No. What I'm saying is that I think if you're picking up objects off of the ground as a human being, knowing how to do so with a solid midline and a spine that is slightly rounded is a really important skill to have, because the position that you can get into, the position that you have to get into to pick up a bag of, let's say, fertilizer off of the ground, you cannot pick that up with a traditionally neutral spine. Generally, like, you'd have to get so low underneath it. Or if you had a big boulder that you wanted to pick up and move, a stone, you can't really pick that up and lap it with a neutral spine.
No.
The other thing, when we get into this discussion of like the neutrality of the spine as well, I think that there's an overemphasis on the lordosis, on the arching of the back versus a neutral spine, which is not really arched. There's probably flat, if not maybe a little bit of hollow position in an actual neutral spine. If you were looking at it from a textbook, what is neutral spine position? I think what we see a lot of times, because athletes maybe don't have the proprioception to put themselves into a neutral spine position, is we see coaches say, arch your back or chest up unnecessarily too much. And then you get into a place where you have so much arch that when you're picking up something from the ground, now it's like counterproductive and you might be doing things that are not great for you. So just in general, like a neutral spine position for me does not mean that there's an unnecessary arch in the back. I think that that's worse, probably potentially, than having a little bit of rounding in the spine where you have a solid midline supporting that position. I would rather be there than be arched heavy under load, for sure. I hope this all makes sense. Everybody out there is probably like thinking about like rounded backs and arched backs and stuff like this.
Ultimately, if you're trying to build strength, my recommendation is you want to find that neutral and not overarch it, especially like hypermobile kids and stuff. You got to be really paying attention to this type of stuff.
For sure.
But you want to develop the awareness to be able to lift, with that neutral. I do think that's important because here's like a kind of like a, not devil's advocate, but like a position on like, let's just take a bag of fertilizer. When I'm going to pick up a bag of fertilizer, at least I'm attempting to get in a more arched position. Like I'm not intentionally. Now, if it's a stone, that's different, right? I'll lap it and then round around it. That's different. But if I'm going to pick something up off the ground, I'm going to try and get my back in a better position than just reaching over and grabbing it like really shitty. And so I think that...
Well, is that shitty? That's what I'm asking. Is it shitty to reach down and grab something from the ground with a slightly rounded back? With a lumbar that's slightly rounded, I am kind of more convinced at this point that it's not. I think the ability to control the position is ultimately what's most important. To know when you're arched in a more lordotic state versus, I believe this would be kyphosis or kyphotic state of the lumbar. So subtle rounding with control, I think is perfectly safe.
There's zero evidence to support that you're more prone to injury by rounding your back, by lifting something up with a rounded back than you are by lifting something up with a neutral spine. There's zero evidence to support that.
Well, when you say neutral, rounded versus, but then how, okay, all right. So I know we're totally getting in the weeds here, but let's just say you have a bag of fertilizer and you go and you establish a appropriate posture. Let's just say there's some rounding. It's all good, but you're fighting for that position. Where I've seen people get messed up, right, is when you're deadlifting and they're in a position and then that position breaks, right? I think we'd all agree on that.
That's loss of control of the spine.
For sure. So I think we all agree that like where like the muscle goes, boop, and it's like freaks out is when you go from whatever position you're in to a different position through loading.
See, I don't know. I think it's more they're loading the tissue beyond its current capacity, and it's not necessarily a function of a breakdown in position. It's they've lost tension in the muscles that are going to be able to support lifting whatever it is that they're lifting, and some sort of tissue has responded unfavorably to that. Like it's been exposed to something beyond its capacity, and it's not necessarily just the shape of the spine or the position that they're in that is causing that. I don't think it's like, I can think of people that have tweaked their back doing all sorts of things over the years, and it's not always like, oh, they lost position, their back rounded out, so that's why they got hurt. They could have maintained a perfect position and something got tweaked, something was exposed to tension that it was not necessarily prepared for, that was beyond its current capacity, and that's what led to pain or injury or a tweak, whatever it was. So injuries and pain are so, I mean, we talked about this last time too, like with the Achilles. It's like, it's not necessarily positionally they did something wrong. It's just that they've exposed the tissue to something beyond its current capacity for whatever reason. And there's a good, like, to speak to the same guy, Julian, again, shout out Julian Pinot from StrongFit. One of the things
his sandbags.
I mean, one of the reasons why he promotes the sandbag is because it creates when you lift something where the object itself is within your center of mass, right? Like, so it doesn't exist outside of, like, where barbells, the weight is outside of you. That forces you to direct tension outside of your body, like away from your midsection, away from your midline. When an object is contained within your center, like within, like a sandbag, a boulder,
footprint,
a bag of fertilizer, you direct all that tension inward, and it allows you to create and utilize muscles just in a more natural way that allows you to lift and generally remain pain injury free, because that's just how your body is designed to create tension internally like that. What the barbell does is directs that tension outward, and it oftentimes puts your body in kind of unnatural positions where certain muscles are taking on tension that they're otherwise not meant to take on. And that's
for sure.
Yeah, like the excessively arched back is one example of that.
This is like a cardinal rule of weightlifting as well. Like the lighter you want even a barbell to feel, the closer you have to keep it to your center of mass,
yeah,
right?
Of course. Yeah.
The further away from your frontal plane or your center of mass any object gets, the more tension on the system to hold and control that object, right? Like, even if you held a baby with extended arms out here, it's going to fucking hurt in about 2 minutes to hold a baby like that. Right. But if you hold a baby against your body, it's like completely supported by your entirety of your muscular and skeletal system.
But then what's the takeaway? So what's the takeaway? Because
from this conversation?
Well, because I could say without a doubt, I 100 believe this in 20 years of being in the gyms. I believe that when you're overhead, this is just my opinion, and you get in an overarched position, that is where I see a lot of issues in the overarched position there.
For sure.
And I feel very convinced of that. If you brace down your belly, I'm yet to see a risk of injury there because they open up their rib cage too much. Now, on the ground, right? I think we're having a good discussion about this, or even back squatting, right? What's
I think it's the same argument that you just said. I think it's the same argument that overarching your back to pick something up off of the ground. So I think in terms of what I was thinking, is that if there's a heavy object that's between my feet, and this is natural, I knew this for a long time. If you go to pick it up, you're not going to be able to pick it up effectively, nor probably safely, with too much of an arch in your back. You just can't do it. To get that thing off of the ground safely and more efficiently, you literally have to have a rounding of your spine to do so. And I think as long as the spine is stable in that position, that you're engaging the abdominals and the erectors to support the spine, and that you haven't pushed the tissue beyond where you are trained to push it, I don't think there's a ton of risk of injury to lifting like that. And if I was teaching anybody how to deadlift, I certainly have taught the deadlift where I'm asking them to like give me more arch in their spine for sure. But I would be looking now in a more mature point of view of the movement and what I know about body mechanics and lifting myself. I'd be looking to have that athlete control the different positions and know where they can find that neutral, maybe slightly hollow position of the spine and hold that against isometric tension first, and then introduce dynamic loading or moving an object from the ground to the waist. That's essentially the core of the argument. I think that there's way too much overemphasis and potentially probably a lot of lifting that happens where the spine is arched too much, and that's way worse, in my opinion, than slightly rounded.
Yeah, and to speak to your example, Jay, like when people go overhead, like there are people, if you watch some of the old school strength athletes, they used to do the bent, like the strict press in competition, and guys would literally almost bend in half to press the bar over their head. And obviously, I'm sure there have been guys that did that and got hurt doing it, but it wasn't necessarily because they allowed their spine to bend. It's because, they developed capacity in that position over time to be able to do it without getting hurt. So it's a similar argument. It's like someone that goes overhead and they overextend and they expose their spine to this position. they potentially put themselves at risk because they just haven't built up gradually appropriate amounts of exposure and capacity in that position, which they absolutely can with practice. So it's yes, I mean, yeah, of course. Like, listen, I think teaching people how to, especially young lifters, teaching them the awareness of how to maintain a neutral spine, create it, and develop tension around it without losing it is incredibly valuable, because that's going to then lend itself to being able to have that awareness and strength and capacity in other positions when they deviate from it. So it's a great like starting point. And especially again, when you're dealing with barbells, that's probably going to be the position you'd want to find yourself in most of the time, because the tension is not all directed inward. A lot of it has to be directed outward. So you can't really find yourself safely in that rounded position oftentimes.
Yeah. Well, Jefferson curl, good example, right?
Yeah.
Jefferson curl is a great example.
There are certain lifts. Yeah. So it's just, I think we've developed this thought process that like, if my back is not perfectly straight or rounded, I'm going to get hurt. And I think that's misguided. Yeah.
I think that's trash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. Young athletes how to create it and maintain it. That's valuable for them.
That's what it is. I mean, I got a group of kids that are going to be coming over to work, and I'm going to start off just with body awareness, right? Can you even hold a hollow rock, right? Are you aware of what that is? And then can you maintain that neutral position? These are all things that I think are fundamental, and we need to start teaching our youth just to establish a position. I think that's going to translate into a bunch of other things for them. And then obviously single leg stuff, I think is really important, and making sure they have the balance and coordination to do that. So those are the things I'm going to be working on here in the near future, and I'll get back to you guys on that.
Dude, the hollow position is one of those things, man, that like right away you can see whether or not an athlete has that like proprioceptive awareness or the ability to control their midline. And it's very difficult for somebody who hasn't experienced that position to find. So the hollow position that Jason is talking about, typically you're lifting your shoulder, you're laying on the ground on your back, and you're essentially trying to press your erectors down into the ground and essentially thinking about pushing your belly button down, your glutes stay down, your low back is on the floor, your feet come up 3 or 4 inches, your shoulders come up 3 or 4 inches, and you're trying to just maintain that position on the ground. Very, very challenging to do. Oftentimes what will happen is you'll feel that there's space underneath the lumbar curvature of your spine, and you're not able to press the erectors down. Yeah, this is a fantastic visual representation of what a hollow position looks like. I'd ask the athlete to bring their feet down a little bit. It's neither here nor there, but that's a pretty good hollow position. And the way to make that easier on an athlete who's learning it is you just tuck the knees, you bring the knees in closer to the chest, and it makes it an easier position to hold.
Yeah. We do hollows and sit-ups almost every other week at the men's club, because I just think they're an incredible skill, for sure. And one of the other things I've been incorporating on a semi-regular basis is we bring bands out and we do like 2 sprints just to finish with a band around the other person. It's a really cheap alternative to get in some sprint work after we're done. Like once we're warmed up and everything, just like, one person's tethered behind the other and they're holding a band. It's a nice way to get in some sprint work that most guys don't get in very often. So,
dude, you got to bring a rope down and get a tug-of-war in.
Ooh.
Dude, could you imagine? Could you imagine? MDV sent me a message. He goes, "Dude, your crew's looking what's the
diced
word?
Up.
Diced up." I'm like, "Oh, that's diced up." Maybe that's their new shirt.
That presents.
Dennis might have just changed the whole landscape of the men's club with the tug-of-war idea, dude.
Tug-of-war, dude. Great.
I think Dennis might have just revolutionized men's club. Men's club now needs to end with a tug-of-war.
Dude, tug-of-war
every week.
The best. The best.
Dude, it has to end now. You have to do this, Jay.
Dude, tug-of-war would be really crazy.
Dude, it's going to be insane, dude. You get 25 guys on one side, 25 guys on the other. You got that fucking you got the towel in the middle. Oh, dude. My God, dude. I'm so fired up. It's a sugar diet. I'm so fired up right now. Sugar diet, ready to go.
We just had a hit of honey, and now we're talking about the tug-of-war. Dude, finishing off the men of the tug-of-war would be pretty gnarly.
Dude, Jason, if you don't get a tug-of-war rope today, I'm going to be fucking so pissed at you. You have to get a tug-of-war rope now. It's enough for 50 guys.
So primal.
Dude, that's the best. I'm so shit, dude.
I can't tell if you guys are joking, but
I'm not joking at all.
I'm dead
I'm
serious.
not joking at all, dude. This is the best idea for the men's club that I've heard since taking black and white photos with shirts off at the end. This is the best idea for the men's club ever. 100%.
I would do it at my gym if we could, but it's like within, certain people are going to want to be into it. Certain people are not. You can't really force people into that kind of scenario, right? Like they want to be the weak link or they're going to, but with
this is the best
with a group of shirtless men
for the men's club that has ever come up.
Wait, why is it I mean, aside from it just being like super primal, what drives you? What gets you fired up about it?
Do you remember field day when you were growing up?
Yeah.
Do you remember how fucking fired up you got for the Tug-of-War?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Now you just have it magnified by 1,000,000 because it's 50 jacked guys grabbing a rope and saying, "We want to win."
Yeah. I mean, it's just
Jason, this is going to go insanely gangbusters, dude.
Yeah.
Insanely
gangbusters.
Gangbusters.
Great exercise. Like it's a great full body exercise. I mean, that's on just, on surface level and for that reason alone. But then when you add the ingredient of competition and a group of people doing it together and they all want to win and they all want to let their teammates down. And yeah, dude.
This is incredible. This is incredible, Dennis. Dennis just revolutionized the men's club.
Bus.
You have to bring the rope on the tour bus.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. So it's the Train Hard Men's Club tour, and we are going to bring a tug-of-war. No, because you need a lot of guys to do a tug-of-war, right? Like here in the Bay Area, we got 40, 50 guys every week. Okay, you need at least 10 guys to do a tug-of-war.
Depends on the length of the rope.
You can do one-on-one tug-of-war.
I mean, bro, we're trying to get like 100-foot rope because how are you going to get all 25 guys on a rope?
You need a really long rope.
You need a big rope. But you could tug-of-war with less people on a big rope. You would just have to move the slack out of the way.
For sure.
Oh my God. All right. You guys are giving me, I'm partly excited, partly nervous, always whenever we talk about new ideas.
Jason, if you don't buy a tug-of-war rope today, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Wait, so but then we got to find a referee.
You are the referee.
Oh, I'm not part of it. I'm the referee.
Yeah, dude, you can't be, you're the silverback gorilla. You can't be on either end of this thing. 100 men versus one Jason.
Right. Dude. Yeah. So how many guys going to take Jason? You
can only be involved if there's an analog Jason that shows up. Like if Dennis shows up to the men's club, then he's on the opposite team to you. If Rich comes to the men's club or like Jocko comes to the men's club one day, they're on the opposite team from you. But you got to be the guy holding dude, Jay, this is going to be so fun, man. I'm super jealous right now.
All right. I'm going to look it up.
You need a whistle too.
What, a whistle? Oh.
You need a whistle.
Like
old school.
Like PE. Like, wow.
Men's club is about to pop off, dude. Men's club is about to be so lit. You have no idea. It's just going to be tug-of-war from now on.
Wait, what's this? What's Liz showing us?
Oh, is this tug-of-war with a sports team? OSU doing this?
Yeah, dude, look at this.
Oh my God, Jason, dude.
You remember back in the day, actually, we had a tug-of-war between Rogue Fitness and Again Faster. Liz, you want to see if you could find that on YouTube?
I remember that.
Fitness versus Again Faster. We finished off a competition with a tug-of-war. You remember that? Like back in the day?
Like what?
I wonder.
Yes. I was a part of organizing that event from the Again Faster side. Oh. You were on Rogue at that point.
Yeah.
You were a Rogue athlete.
Oh.
This is a different.
Oh no, this is something different.
There's young Rich. Look at him, baby face.
They did that at games?
That looks like it was at an event. Like a real event. Oh, that was a Rogue Invitational. Anyways,
interesting.
But back in the day, it was the Rogue Fitness Again Faster Lake Tahoe.
2009, 2010.
And we finished off with a man, you're right. That is primal. That's like some old school stuff.
Yeah.
Dude. Perhaps the greatest event. So Dennis, this idea for the tug-of-war is amazing. I'm going to give you props on this forever.
Yep.
But the best event maybe to ever happen in the CrossFit community was the Rogue versus Again Faster Lake Tahoe event. That at the time was so cool and was such a great it was before the games like really popped off with Reebok. Like that wasn't part of it yet. Like Innovate was still like the big footwear sponsor. But every big name athlete was invited to Lake Tahoe, and they split up the two groups into the Rogue team, which is essentially like the villains of X-Men. Like every gnarly athlete that you could imagine was on the Rogue side, except at the time, Rich Froning was still an Again Faster athlete. And he was like the secret weapon on the Again Faster side with Pat Barber and Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet and a bunch of other people. There was some dark horse candidates on the Again Faster team.
Bro, we had two houses. We had the Again Faster house. And I actually think that might be where Dave and Camille first like got together, if I'm not mistaken.
Lipson?
Yeah. And now obviously they're married and they have a child. But dude, I just remember when we were doing those events, like we would just be like cruising around Tahoe and Dave would like see something and be like, this is an event. Dude, one time we like ran up the side of a mountain. It wasn't pre-planned, none of it. It's like, okay, we're going to run up this mountain and we're going to stop when we get to the top. It's like, well, where's the top? It's like the top. And we were driving by one time, there was a park and he goes, all right, we're going to do this park event.
This is it.
I don't know what.
Who's that guy?
That looks like me.
That's young. Do you have a mustache?
Oh yeah, I had a mustache. We did yeah, we'll have to watch what that is. But yeah, there was one event where I was on a paddleboard and they disqualified me because I grabbed on my teammate to get an extra like pull. But anyways, all right. Look, I'm going to go up. I'm going to find that video because I think it'll be inspiring. We may or may not include a Tug-of-War in next week's. I'm not going to get it in time. So I will at some point add a Tug-of-War because I think that'd be badass.
Yeah, dude.
Next week, you should be adding a Tug-of-War.
Oh, I got disqualified from this event. This is me. I'm on a paddleboard and I grabbed on someone else's canoe. You see me holding onto the canoe?
Yeah, footage.
Oh, man. All right, gentlemen. Well, hey, I appreciate you guys. And producer Liz, thank you. If you guys are not a part of the Train Hard community on our app, on our newsletter, make sure to do so. Right now, the community is absolutely on fire in the Train Hard app. We have incredible programs that are going to help you get to where you want to get to. The transformations are absolutely mind-blowing. And, the newsletter goes out every Wednesday. And then, of course, we have the podcast. So if you're getting value from these conversations, share with a friend, share with two friends. And don't forget to email someone, text someone, get some guys together, hit up your neighbor. I'm not kidding. I'll share with you guys on maybe another episode when I get my new neighbor over to my house because I have texted them now 5 times. Because I just want to be that guy, dude. I want to be the guy where the neighbors come over, we're training hard, we're getting after it, and then we're showing up for our family. And I hope you want to be the same thing. So, Dennis, MDV, appreciate you guys, and keep training hard.